back to score on business. And let's get back to John. So, John, you were telling us about your radio show. Again, that is the pitch funding radio show, Super Talk 99.7, Saturdays from 5 until 6. And you're helping people get the word out. So tell us, how can entrepreneurs become guests on your show?
Well, the easy way is just shoot me an email.
Okay.
So my email address is john@seriousstartups.com.
Okay, so that's John at seriousstartups.com.
Yep, and
Okay.
just shoot me an email, tell me about your idea, shoot me a link to your crowdfunding campaign if you already have
Okay.
one active, or if you're thinking about it, basically just email me, we'll have a conversation. I want to get to know
Right.
you and find out more about your idea, and then see if there's maybe someone we should have you on the show and set up a time.
What about cost for the entrepreneur?
I don't charge the entrepreneurs anything.
Okay.
This is kind of one of those ways to help people raise the capital they need. I'm heavily involved in things like Ideashares. We're working with tons of
Right.
entrepreneurs out there that need to raise that capital. So,
Yeah.
a big portion of the idea was, why don't I start a radio show and we'll create a mechanism for folks to raise that
Yeah.
capital they need, and it works in so many different arenas that I'm involved in that I'm not using it as a revenue generator right now. I've got several great local companies that have helped me cover a lot of the cost, and I'm looking for a few other sponsors to help me cover some more of the hard costs, but right now I personally fund it, and there's a few other companies that pay for the show.
It's great that you're able to give back to the community, and we want a vibrant economy. And so, okay, from a strategy perspective, and you may have just answered some of this one, how did you come up with the idea? One thing I've always appreciated about you is your ability to kind of think outside the box and come up with new things. So,
well, the real answer to that question, outside of things I just talked about, from the real macro view of all this, it's actually pretty ironic. I was expecting what I'm about to say to not happen for another year or so, but actually on October 30th, the SEC initiated the rules that is going to allow non-accredited investors, which means you make less than $200,000 a year or a liquid net worth, not including your house, of $1 million, to invest for equity into crowdfunding campaigns. So part of the reason I started the show was, hey, let's build an audience, let's expand this premise, and then a year or so from now, when the SEC finally gets around to having the rules ready, we'll have the audience built to start going directly into the equity crowdfunding component of the show, and have people directly pitching, not to just go and, hey, pre-buy your product, but to go invest $2,000, $3,000 into the company for ownership.
Okay.
And so that was kind of one of the macro views of why I wanted to start the show. And thankfully, the SEC voted on October 30th. It's going to go into effect 180 days from then, so I think it's March something. Equity crowdfunding will now be allowed to everybody across the United States, even if you're not an accredited investor.
And so kind of the teaching concept from that, to use different words, is you were paying attention to what's going on in the world and what's going on in the marketplace. You know that crowdfunding is an interest. You know that assisting entrepreneurs and growing. You paid attention to what was going on. You saw that the SEC most likely was going to do this.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. One of the big pieces that really got me involved in the crowdfunding space was looking at the growth. The growth rate of crowdfunding. So it's basically doubled year over year since its inception. And next year it's projected to exceed the capital raised from traditional venture capital. So that's a monstrous shift, and that's prior to even considering equity crowdfunding being part of the equation. So we're literally looking at massive increase of the capital that's being raised from the crowd, and literally making venture capital still a predominant player and a very, very important factor, but actually taking over as the big arena of for investment.
Well, when you look at companies that are smaller, it's very, very difficult to get either angel funding or venture capital. And there's the old joke about getting married and there's a ball and chain around your leg. Well, you get money from,
One of the things I talked about on the show in context of all this was it really boils down to the return on investment. So for a lot of the traditional investors, they're investing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and the amount of return that business has to provide for it to make it worth their while is monstrous.
Yeah.
But for kind of a lot of the rest of us, normal
Yeah.
humans, hey, $3,000 or $4,000, if I turn that into 20 or 30,
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Okay.
If I turn 2,000 into
Yeah.
10,000, you're happy. You know,
Yeah.
it's a completely different arena, which allows a lot of smaller business ideas that might not appeal to the larger traditional capital.
Hey,
have a
John,
huge market.
sorry to interrupt you. We are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week. Thank you.